Welcome to the QuickSight Learning Series weekly webinar. This has been organized for QuickSight customers to learn about product functionalities, new feature launches, best practices, and tips on how to improve their user experience and gain technical knowledge from QuickSight solution architects and product managers. In today's session, we'll talk about a new QuickSight feature which got launched on 5th of May this month called as Dataset Parameters. My name is Anwar Ali, and I am a QuickSight solution architect at AWS. I also have my colleague Deepak Singh, who will be moderating the webinar and responding to your questions. Now, where do you go if you have any questions about QuickSight? QuickSight community is a one-stop shop for your journey with QuickSight. This is the place where you will connect with other QuickSight users. You can ask new questions and find resources. We also post the latest announcements, events, blogs, and learning resources here. Today's session is part of our weekly online learning series that's scheduled every Wednesday 10 a.m. Pacific time and every Thursday 10 a.m. Central European time. We also have other monthly events. I encourage you to scan this QR code or go to community.amazonquicksite.com event page and register for some of these events. If you haven't done so, now would be a great time to join our community and bookmark it for the future. Log on to community.amazonquicksite.com. You need amazon.com login, and once you are on the community homepage, you can go to Q&A section. This is how Q&A section looks like. You can search for any of the questions. If you don't find the questions, you can also post new question. Our expert today, Deepak Singh, during the live session gets you an answer quickly. Use the hashtag dataset parameter, and we will be prioritizing these questions. Let's see how to post a question in the community. So go to the QuickSight community homepage, and from there, click on the category menu, select questions and answers. You can search for existing questions here. It's a big database for the QuickSight questions. You can post a new question. So you can give any title. And for today's session, the QLS tag is QLS dataset parameter. You can use this hashtag for posting any question today. So this way you can give a more detailed description here in the body and post a new question. Your question will be listed with the hashtag, and Deepak will be responding to those questions. Today's session will be recorded, and we will post this recording to our YouTube channel and community by the end of the week. The agenda for today's session will explain what is dataset parameter, some of the use cases, and finally demonstrate how to use the dataset parameter in the QuickSight. So before we dive deep into dataset parameter, let's recap parameters in QuickSight. Parameters are the variables in the QuickSight that helps you to transfer values or user actions. It helps you to create interactive experiences. For example, you can set values of parameter using control or actions. You can also reference parameters in calculated field and narratives. And it helps passing value across multiple sheets in QuickSight dashboards. Before the launch of dataset parameters, parameters are being defined while creating an analysis by QuickSight author and we call this parameters now as analysis parameters. So you have two things, dataset parameter, which is a new feature, and the traditionally what we call as a parameter is now called as analysis parameters. This month, on May 5th, we have launched the new feature, dataset parameter. Dataset parameter, as the name suggests, are created at dataset level rather than analysis level during dataset preparation phase by dataset owners. You can reference dataset parameter in custom SQL for direct query datasets. You can also reference dataset parameters in calculated field for spice or direct query based dataset. Dataset parameters can be single valued or it can be multi-valued. Example of referencing dataset parameter is shown in this slide. Here we are referencing a dataset parameter called as state. You can see the state in here, and as this is the syntax for dataset parameter, and we are using it in a custom SQL. Select star from all files where origin state abbreviation equal to state. So this is how you will use a single value dataset parameter, and multi-valued dataset parameter can also be used. So this is an example of using multi-valued parameter with the in clause. You can also use dataset parameters in conjunction with analysis parameters. Dataset parameters can be mapped to analysis parameters and passed value at runtime using filters. Now we will look at some of the use cases for dataset parameter. Use case one is if you are using if you are using a direct query dataset with a custom SQL, dataset parameter helps with faster dashboard load and data slicing experience. Dataset parameters allows you to pass parameter values at runtime to generate optimized SQL queries. Result of this is reduced load on the backend database and faster query response. Use case 2 for dataset parameter is that dataset parameter helps you to make your dataset more reusable by multiple authors across analyses. If you have a calculated field referencing parameters at the analysis level, dataset parameter feature allows you to port such calculated field from analysis to dataset. As parameters can now be referenced in calculated field within the dataset, so you can easily port the calculated field referencing the parameters from analysis to dataset. Third use case for dataset parameter is it helps you to easily maintain datasets. If you have multiple references of a placeholder value in different calculated fields, formulas or in calculated field formulas or custom SQL subquery clauses, you can define it as a dataset parameter and reference it within the datasets. Changes of this placeholder value only needs to be done at one place, like how enums are used in the programming language. In the same way, you can use dataset parameter across multiple calculated fields and subqueries. You can also use dataset parameter in case when clause or if and else clause. Example is given where dataset parameter user first name and user last name is used. We are fetching transactions for the region pertinent to that particular user using the case when clause. Same way you can use it with if then else clause as well. Now we'll explore how to create and use dataset parameter with a brief demo. In this demo, we will be using New York City taxi dataset. It's from the open dataset website, and we have sampled it to 1 million record. We are using Amazon RDS Postgres database and created a table NY taxi data. This table is having 1 million records loaded. We'll show you how to use parameters. Then we'll show you how to use dataset parameter with the custom SQL direct queries and see the benefit of optimized queries. We will also show you mapping dataset parameters with analysis parameters, how you are going to map dataset parameter with analysis parameters, and we finally see how to use it in the calculated fields. You can use dataset parameter with calculated field both in Spice and direct query based datasets. So let's go to the demo. I've logged into the QuickSight console. Let me go to the North Virginia region. I will go and first create a dataset without dataset parameter and see the SQL query generated to it. So let's see how traditionally the analysis parameter works. So we'll create a dataset. I have pre-created data source called as QLS NY data, and I'm going to create dataset out of this connection. I'm going to use custom SQL query. I will name it as New York taxi data. Select all. We'll go on edit preview data, and I will apply this query. You can see the table structure and sample data here. So we are going to see the fare amount, the passenger count, latitude, longitude, and other fields in this particular table. Primarily, we will create the dataset parameter using the fare amount column here. So let's publish and visualize this particular dataset. We are in analysis page now in the QuickSight. Let's create a sample table where we'll select few fields and create a table. So I have my table loaded here, and how typically in the analysis I create a parameter I will show you. So we are creating a parameter in the analysis which still holds good. So I will create a parameter PA fare amount. A means analysis, so we are just using this abbreviation. I'm giving a default value of 50 here. I'm going to use control. Okay, and I will apply a filter to this table and link my analysis parameter with this particular filter. So I'm creating a filter and I will use parameter with this particular filter. So I applied filter fare amount is 60. It will give me records with a fair amount of 60. So this way, I am showing you right now how you will use the analysis parameter. So this parameter is defined in the analysis. We have so far not created dataset parameter. Let's look at what kind of SQL queries are generated when you apply such kind of filters at the analysis level. So we'll apply the filter values, and as this we are connected to the RDS direct query data source. So let's see the queries that got generated in the RDS dataset. So I will go to RDS performance insight to my database instance, and here I will look for last 5 minutes of the metrics. You will see the query that got generated. So if you notice here carefully that I'm having a select star query as my inner query, and outer query is having this where clause predicate, right? So inner query is still not optimized while my filter conditions are in the outer query. Now, when we will see how this query got transformed once we use the dataset parameter. So let's create a new dataset, but this time rather than analysis parameter alone, we will be using dataset parameter with the analysis parameter. So let's go and create a new dataset. We'll use the same data source, QLS New York taxi data. I will create custom SQL direct query data source. I'll say use custom SQL. This time I name the custom query as New York taxi data underscore ds param to indicate this is for dataset parameter. And let's use the same table. Now here we will apply the dataset parameter. We are using again a direct query. We'll create the dataset parameter. We'll name this parameter as PDS fair amount. And let's set its default value as 0. We are using convention PDS. It's just a convention to identify and differentiate dataset parameter with analysis parameter, but you can go with any convention. It's not a necessary thing. So we have this dataset parameter created. If you observe this particular parameter, icon was not available prior because you don't have capability to create parameter in the dataset. But now with this particular new feature, you have capability to create dataset you have capability to create dataset parameter in the dataset. So we'll use select star from New York taxi data where fair amount equal to P DS fair amount. So it will automatically pop up the parameter name. And if I click or apply, you will see the trips with the fair amount 0. So this way I'm able to use my parameter PDS fair amount in the custom SQL for a direct query. Now let's see how it will look in the analysis. So I'm clicking on publish and visualize. I'm going to my analysis sheet. Right. Here, I will show you how to map this particular dataset parameter with a filter and analysis parameter. So let's create a table visual with few fields. Okay. So we have created a table. If you notice, it has applied the filter because default value for dataset parameter was 0. So we are only seeing the fair amount 0 here. I can even map this dataset parameter with an analysis parameter. So this is again a new feature. You are seeing the dot here with the next to parameter. That means there are unmapped dataset parameter. Since I don't have any analysis parameter, this is a new analysis. I will create a new analysis parameter and map it with this particular dataset parameter. For convention, I'm using PA fair amount to differentiate my dataset parameter and analysis parameter. I'm using PA fair amount for analysis parameter and PDS fair amount for dataset parameter. I also create a control to modify its value. So if I change value for the parameter to the analysis parameters of the filter control, you will observe, you'll notice that this optimized SQL queries are being sent out to the backend Postgres RDS database. So I might create, generate some load because these are optimized query. It might not have been generating sufficient load on the database, and I need to see what kind of queries are generated in the performance insight. So let's run and see the performance insight last few minutes. Okay, great. So this time you can see that we have the where clause fair amount equal to 15. This where clause is this filter is applied in the inner query, and you can see this was generated from the QuickSight visual, and you will have the fair amount equal to 15 predicate applied in the inner query. So this way we are getting optimized SQL generated at the backend. So this was the SQL what we observed earlier. We had outer query where in the where clause we have a fair amount 50 in the outer query, and inner query was still the full scan. While we have pushed down the where predicate in the inner query now, and this makes this particular SQL optimized. Remember, this works with the custom SQL direct query. If you are using, if you are fetching the tables and joining it in the QuickSight, that experience will still be good. You will have optimized query. But with the custom SQL, the dataset parameter allows you capability to push down the predicates. These are some of the limitations of the dataset parameter. Dataset parameter can't be inserted into custom SQL of direct of this price dataset. It can be used only with the direct query custom SQL. But with calculated fields and others, you can use it. So next now, see how you can use dataset parameter with calculated field, and you can use it both with Spice as well as direct query based dataset. So let's go back to the QuickSight console. Now we will create a dataset and we'll see how to use dataset parameter in calculated field. So I'm creating a new dataset again with the same data source. I will name it as New York taxi data underscore calc field. So we are going to use it in calculated field. I will give the query select star from New York taxi data. I will go on edit and preview data. And if I click apply, you will see the table structure, table metadata, and in the field, these are the columns fetched from the data source. New York taxi data in this particular table, these are the columns present. Let's now create a calculated field. So what I want to do with the calculated field is like I will mark the fair amount as high fair amount, low fair amount, or normal fair amount, depending on the fair amount value. So I'll create two dataset parameters, one for low marker and one for high marker. So let's first create a parameter. I will say PDS start fare, make it as an integer type, and my lower fare bound is 15. So any fare less than 15 is marked as low with calculated field. I'm creating PDS start fare as my first dataset parameter of integer type. And let's create one more parameter, PDS end fare, again integer type, and I will make it value as 40. I've created these two dataset parameters. Now let's use it in the calculated field. So I will say add calculated field. I'll say fare type as my calculated field. So this fare type will be additional calculated column, which will indicate whether the trip was high fare, low fare, or normal fare trip. So I will use fare amount and compare its value against this parameter value. If amount is less than the low marker, then I will call it as a low fare trip. If fare amount is greater than high marker, P descent fare, I will call it as a high fare trip. Otherwise, I will call it as a normal fare trip. I will mark this trip as a normal fare. So this way I have created a calculated field. Okay, and what you can see here in the fields value that this new field type is available, and I can save this particular data with the derived calculated field called as fare type. Okay, I missed that particular thing. Like, let's add it again. So fare type 2, this is the calculated field. And let's see this particular data set. So you see in the data set, this particular field is unavailable because it's a derived value. Once we go to the analysis, you will be able to use this calculated field. So here you can find the fare type is available, and I will see the different trips. So I have low fare trip, very high number of low fare trip versus the normal fare, and I have few high fare trips as well. So this way I showed you how to use parameters in the calculated field at the dataset level. The advantage is that you are now able to define calculated field at the dataset level, and you can the analysis author can use multiple analysis author can use it in different analysis. So you define it once at the dataset level, and those all fields are passed, those all calculated fields are passed to the analysis, and they are reusable. Here I like to end my demo part and switch back to the presentation. You can refer to documentation regarding some of the limitations for dataset parameter. There is a specific sections on multiple use cases for dataset parameters, and the APIs like create dataset, update dataset APIs will also have dataset parameter reference. So you can reference it while creating dataset through the API. It's not only with the console, but with the if you are programmatically creating dataset, you can also assign dataset parameters there. At the last, in the next week, in the QuickSight Learning series, we will be having a session on improved filter performance for direct query dashboards. So stay tuned and join us on May 31st Pacific time and on June 1st in Central European time. You can log into the community, and in the event page, you can register for this another webinar, next week's webinar. Thank you for your time. We'll appreciate your feedbacks on the QuickSight community or on this particular URL. You can share your feedback with us. Hope you have enjoyed the session today. Thank you very much. Goodbye.